How you doing? My name is George, and you're watching the Northeast RC Racer podcast. I am here with my co-hosts, Finn Manchenda, Tom Petrella, and of course, Toby Hampson is not here, so in his absence, we will try to do our best. Finny, Tom, how you guys doing tonight?
Doing
Doing
great.
good, buddy. I know
Awesome.
Toby's on the other side of the pond. I saw he's over there doing some RC racing too. Brought his
Can't
car over
believe
there
it.
and everything. He's ready to go. I think he brought his car. If not, at least he brought his body, but he might have brought the whole car. Saw him racing over there somewhere. So, Mr.
Yeah, it said,
International, Toby Hampson.
yeah, on one of his messages, I think he said one of the guys over there set it up for him, so I'm not sure how much he brought, but nonetheless, yeah, man, he's rocking it in the UK, some 10 scale, and hope he comes home with some valor.
Very
But it
cool.
looks like I've seen the only pictures I've seen from him there is RC racing or hanging out at different pubs with his boys. So, looks like a successful trip no matter what happens.
That's true. Did you see the age on that pub he sent?
Oh, yeah, like 14 something,
Yeah,
1471 or something out like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
1400, man. That's crazy.
And then was probably there for the groundbreaking.
Yes, I was.
Before we get into the discussion, and thank you to last month's guests, you guys been up to anything lately? Got anything new to talk about for yourselves or anything you're involved with?
Oh yeah. The holidays. We spent the holidays at PAX Tracks. Rode some motocross. So Dylan and Aiden both got out there and they got to practice some MX. So yeah, we broke a sweat every day. We rode on Christmas, man. It was so cool. PAX Tracks MX. It's only an hour from Beachline, so we got down to Beachline. We did a little bit of testing there. Big shout out to Paul Wynn. Paul, thank you so much for coming out, working with us, working with the boys a little bit, and coaching them along. That really meant a lot to us. Appreciate it, buddy. That was so cool to see him down there. So yeah, we've been testing with the B7 even when we got back. I've been chaperoning ski club. So Friday I tried to teach myself how to ski. So 4 out of 5 runs, I crashed hard. So we're going for, maybe only 2 out of 5 runs this Friday.
Where you going, Vin?
Shawnee. So I'm a chaperone for the rec in town, and I'm on the high school bus. So I got Aiden on the bus with me. Bree's got Dylan on the bus with her, and I'm friends with some of the parents and stuff. So it's always a good time. Shout out to my college buddy and local friend Adele, who beat my butt down the mountain we both tried to learn together, and she kicked my butt. It was embarrassing, but it was so much fun. So yeah, I'm building some new cars for the season. I got a B4.1 up there, a T4 E up there that I'm getting ready for the season. I'm going to test some shell suspension and some updates for the e-truck. We're going to test out. So we also have silly season that just passed. So everyone knows I'm the manager of the Region 2 AE team, and really proud of some of the drivers that we brought on this period. And I'll just quickly give them a shout out if that's okay. So first guy on the list, Billy Pappenberg. All right, you guys know him. Yeah, that guy's awesome. So happy to have him on the team.
Brappin' Pappin'.
He's awesome, man. I remember him helping me years ago. He was on, I don't even remember what chassis he was on, but he was trying to teach me some basics and stuff with eights. He's such a nice guy.
One of the nice.
So yeah, and then we picked up the Garris family. So Brock, Melanie, and Ricky, welcome to the team. Those guys are super friendly. I know Melanie is like always cooking up food and going to Crispy Critters and giving them stuff. And they've been racing that LCRC pretty consistently lately and trying to get out to bigger events and stuff. So we're excited to have them. And then if you go to LCRC a lot, you got to know Derek and Gage Hurley. These two brothers are crushing it. They're hitting the scene hard. They got a lot of help from me this last season, and they climbed the ladder quick. We got them on a good setup car, and they're getting the hang of it. They're putting in the time. They're practicing, and them as well as Dwayne Gutshaw. He's another one who's coming around, and we know plus 40. He's up there in the A, making his way. And then we have another guy, Jason Massey, who was into RC years and years and years ago. He was a sponsored. I think he was a TLR guy, but nevertheless, he's on the team with us, and he's really big into setup and development, which is really cool. And then from a little bit further south, from Virginia, we have a young man named Lane Steffi, who's a young fast guy, and we're looking forward to seeing him on the team and progressing with us. So shout out to Lane Steffi. And yeah, that's our new ads for the season. And yeah, we have a really, really good show tonight with Dennis and Pword. So I'm really excited for that as well. Tom?
Well, I feel like a slacker because I don't have that much exciting stuff. All the exciting stuff going on. But no, happy to hear some of those names, right? All good guys for the new for Associated, which can be kind of cool. I mean, I think the 40 plus class can end up becoming like the IROC series. We're all gonna have the same chassis and see who comes out on top. But really good stuff.
What's awesome is that a lot of us are we're on the same chassis and we're on different setups. Isn't that cool? I think that's so awesome that guys are developing their own setup off of a baseline that we help them with, and then they get to use that to do well and call it their own. I love it.
Yeah. Well, everybody has different styles, right? That's kind of one of the things I think with your setup section, right, we've talked a lot about is people want to go online and say, oh, I'm going to take David Ronafalk's setup and put that on my car. Well, it doesn't mean you can drive the way you're not going to drive necessarily the way he drives. So developing what works best for you is always the best way to go.
Yeah.
And for
he's running on a different track too. You got to remember all these guys are on different tracks. The temperature is different. The surface changes grip levels. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
But so, excited going on in our world. We had our New Year's race was very well attended again. Indoors been doing pretty good. A lot of guys coming out, so having a lot of fun doing indoor racing. I've been having an absolute blast with Stadium Truck. I kind of we got a lot more guys racing Stadium Truck out there now at Rhythm, so that's been a lot of fun. Talking to Jim, starting to get our plans together for outdoor, trying to get things ready there. If this weather would break, I'll tell you what, I'm ready to get down to Florida myself because this highs of 20 degrees with 15-mile-an-hour winds all day. I'm a chubby guy, but I'm not chubby enough to deal with that. So I try to avoid being out there as much as I can.
Yeah, don't wait till Monday. It's a good time there, Tom. If you want to go to Florida, buddy, you just let me know. I love it.
I'm tempted, but on the personal side, I got a granddaughter coming any day now, so we're sitting tight and hanging close. So excited for that.
Congratulations!
Great news, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we're super excited here at the podcast for 2025. Last month, as an example, we just finished up our 24th episode, which is our 2 years running. This is our third year that we're starting. So we got a whole new lineup of all new guests, good mix between regular Joes, good average racers, people that are coming up the ladder all the way to pros. So that's going to be coming out more of a mix, especially as the season begins. In the meantime, we're going to cover some good stories from a lot of great people. For example, tonight we're covering, as Vin said before, we have two great guests, Pword, who's actually Prisco. Prisco, you're going to have to help me out with your last name when you come on in a few minutes. And then Dennis Brew from Nitro Caddy. So we're super excited to have those guys on tonight. Before we do that, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor. Tom Petrella is going to fill in for Toby, and we're going to cover EB Mods, our main sponsor for the show. You ready, Tom?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Hold on one second. Here we go.
Yeah, so I mean, look, a lot of the group here knows you guys. We all race in the Northeast. Almost everybody knows Ed Bridges, but if you don't, Ed's a local racer. Definitely our local guru when it comes to anything nitro. Super good guy, super smart guy, great resource at the track. If you ever have a chance, if you have any issues with your motor, Ed's a great guy to see. But just some things with EB Mods. So Ed initially was working on, and Vin, you can fill in the blanks here too, but he was doing a lot of the tuning work for people. He can dyno tune your motor. He can pinch it and get it ready, new bearings, whatever else might be. He was basically maintaining and modifying motors, but he just recently came out with his own version of a motor. It's called the OP2 Invictus. Pretty cool little motor. I'm not sure. I haven't had a chance to try to run one yet, but knowing Ed, it's going to be a ripper, and it'll probably get amazing fuel mileage at the same time. But if you guys need any help with any of your nitro stuff, Ed Bridges EB Mods is the one to go to. Whether you need parts for your motor, tools, piston, a pinch, whatever else might be, Ed's the guy to go to.
Yeah, those motors are selling pretty quick. So if anybody's interested in getting one, I would jump on it pretty quick, and score one before he has to put in another order. It might take a while. It might be after the season starts. So get on it if you're getting on it.
He's done so much design stuff. It's kind of cool. I was watching his YouTube videos and how he dimpled the bottom of the sleeve. He's a smart man and does a lot of really, really good work, and good resource for us to have locally for sure. I know he's helped me out. He helped me out a few times in a pinch, and that's one I can rely on.
He helps everyone out, man. He's just like, you see him walking through LCRC. He's just like every angle. It's like, no, come with me. No, I need your help over here. It's pretty cool to see. He's such a nice guy.
He's a racer first for sure.
Right on.
He put a lot of great touches on that motor too, other than, the new designs. With the current state of technology, did a whole bunch of laser etching, which I thought was super cool, put a new logo on there, then transferred that to the boxes that he was shipping stuff out in. It's one thing to get a really awesome product, widget, let's just call it, but especially when you carry that to the front of the box, it's like he took it all the way to the last degree, which I thought was awesome.
For sure.
Hey, Vin, I noticed when I went like this to just, kind of rub my head a second, itching, I was like, something, I got to keep my hat on.
Guys make me feel better about myself.
we can only have one bald star on the show. You will be Telly Savalas.
Feel better?
Now I can rock like this. And then kind of the same all over.
Hey, you're looking good over there, George.
Thanks, buddy. Fresh cut.
Nice.
All right. We talked about how excited we are for the new year. We covered our main sponsor. We are going to take this moment to have a moment of silence, which we'll get to in a second. A dear friend of ours, his name is Justin Drinks, avid racer. I believe Justin was 28 from what I read. I think I know Justin from the time he was probably about 15 coming to the track with his dad. I met Justin at Barnstormers. Him and his dad were always out there practicing, always out there on race day. His dad, gentleman, his son, Justin, gentleman as well. I just remember them always just being so polite, always being there, being dedicated, being focused. They never really messed around with other groups. They were really focused on what they were doing. Anyway, unfortunately, Justin passed away the other day in a vehicular accident, and it's a great loss for our RC community. At the same point in time, one of the great things about our community. Sorry about that. Good night, Pop. Sorry about that. One of the great things, or one of the greatest things about our community is that we're able to bond together, right? So none of us are blood related. None of us are relatives to any degree. We're all just friends, right? And we're friends through the common sport and our love for remote control, primarily A-scale. So when things like this happen, what I find is absolutely amazing, because a whole bunch of guys, everybody's at work, everybody's doing their things, nobody's racing, but the number of people that I saw outpour on a number of different posts for Justin, I thought was tremendous. It's a true testament of the man that he was, the spirit that he had, what he brought to RC racing, the type of racer he was. Not only was he just a great guy, somebody you can bullshit with, he had one of the fucking best smiles at the track, man. I mean, that guy used to smile. I remember going up to him. My little joke with him was, because I knew him from when he was younger, all the way to now when he was 28. So every time I used to see him, I used to say, "Hey, what's up, fast guy?" And that was his nickname. That was my nickname for him and his nickname for me. And it was just this thing we had going for a long time. So I will most definitely miss doing that. I will miss racing with Justin myself. We shared many races, as I'm sure a lot of other people had as well. But I don't really curse a lot on the show, and had a conversation with Vinny recently about how, we need to really keep the show on the straight and narrow. But, I will say this, it's unfortunate. It's a fucking major loss for our RC community. And I'll say it there. We all love that guy. So we are going to take a moment of silence for Justin. Please join me in a moment of silence for our dear friend. We love you, Justin. That's for sure.
We're gonna miss you, buddy.
More importantly, anybody who's interested, I believe Justin's wake is next Thursday. It's been posted all over the internet. I don't have it available right now. I'll try to find it and see if I can present it to the screen. But it is between, I believe, 4 and 6 or 5 and 6. It's going to be somewhere in the Bronx, which I, again, can post. Whoever is local or has the ability to be there, it would be very great and supportive, I'm sure, for him and his family. With that being said, we are going to move on to our guests for this evening. We're going to bring Prisco into the studio. Welcome, Prisco. As soon as I can find it. What up?
There he is.
Hey, Pword.
Hey guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Can for sure.
Are you in your trailer?
Yes.
Nice. Was there ice going on in there, or did you have to heat it up, or what'd you have to do to get that thing going?
I had to heat it up.
Yeah, for sure.
This is sort of my man cave.
Right on.
If it's
How
like
are you
my
guys doing?
garage, Prisco, you probably spend a lot of time in there.
That's so true, George.
I got a great thing over there. I wish I could show it to you guys. It says, "A man's home is his castle, but his garage is his sanctuary."
You got the truth.
That's so
Can I
true.
get an amen?
Amen.
So, Prisco, man, we're super excited to have you to the show. All of us have been friends with you for a long time. I started racing back again in 2009, which is now eons. But I know you for at least 10 years.
Yeah. But first, thanks for having me, guys. Yeah. If I could recall correctly, I started winter of 2010.
There you go.
Yeah. At the barn.
Yeah, that's where I met you.
I started indoor, and then I started slow. Starting to understand the sport, and then I went to Motorama to spectate. Turned out to be the last nitro, and
Oh, cool.
Fish on.
back then it was like, oh, well, this is what I want to do, and to my disappointment, that they said that was the last year they would run nitro classes. But about that year, George.
Yeah, I think that was the
What
first
got you to
year.
the barn in the first place, Prisco?
What was that, Tom?
What brought you to the barn the first time? What kind of car did you have? How'd you get it? Were you patching ahead of time, or?
Yes. So I got to that point of my life that I needed something. Busy at work, new family. So I ran into Critters, which was the original place was very close to my home. So I got a Emax just to really bask in my backyard. And then it started there. I met Aldo, and then if you guys probably met John Carlo, or known as G Word,
Yep.
he introduced me to the barn. I said that come by, see how it works. You might like it. Well, I didn't just like it; I got addicted to it. So yeah, I started with a short course. Back then, it was the um, hmm, before the
SCT?
low. Yeah, before the low C was the Hobao.
Mm-hmm.
it was really fragile. I mean, with all the poles, oh my goodness. When I started, it was horrible. I break
Yeah,
every lap.
fragile car and new racer usually don't go together well.
No, I went also with the poles.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so but it was fun.
Yeah, those poles are not really forgiving,
They're
but
like
they make you a
magnets.
good racer.
Very true. I mean, if you could drive in the barn indoor, you could drive anywhere.
Through that. So, Tom, if you have you ever seen the barn indoor?
I have. Yeah, I never raced it. I've raced obviously outdoor a few times, but I never raced indoor. But I've seen the pictures. I remember walking through. It's tight, but
Oh yeah,
that's all right. Like you
that's
said,
it, man.
the diversity of tracks is good for everybody, no matter where you run. Big track, small track. I
Yep.
was having this conversation with some guys at Rhythm. You know, leapfrogging from carpet and then going back outdoors and being outdoors all year and coming back to carpet. It's amazing how much better you get each time you switch because you learn a lot. So
Yep.
diversity is key. I want to try
Just
on road. I don't think my reflexes are fast enough.
yes, they are. I've seen you run inside. So, Prisco, that's the journey, right? So, you needed something. You needed a hobby. You found RC. It led you to the barn. So, what is it about RC that you became addicted about?
It was always the adrenaline, the competitiveness. When I was young, I always wanted to have a dirt bike. Obviously, at that time, I was not financially capable. And then when I finally got work, got busy to it. But then, family came. You have to prioritize health versus, fun. So the dirt bike kind of got put in the side, but I need to find something that is still mechanical, you know, sounds like a dirt bike, and that's where Nitro and RC really draw me.
Okay. Yeah, man, that pipe, that nitro fuel, that brapping, definitely pull you in, right?
Yeah.
So, what did you find? Right. So, you get into the hobby, you started racing. All those things excite you. So, what did you find in the beginning? Did you find that, you know, did you think it would be real easy, or did you find it difficult? Did you find that you had to go out and like practice at critters? Is that what became part of your routine, or just doing special events? Because I know where you're at now, but in the beginning to, where you started, did you start racing like weekly, or did you slowly move into the hobby?
I started really slow. First, I also started late. I was in my mid 30s when I started. So you know how kind of like challenging that is, to learn new things. So it was very challenging. Plus, also, with time, I gotta balance the time with hobby and family and with small kids. So I was not really able to come to practice or even to events, that frequent. When I probably started, uh, I would go to the barn indoor maybe the most twice in a month, Friday. Um, and then outdoor, probably the most I would go once a month. So I really started slow. So the learning process also was slow. Um, and then the first impression, it was fun, obviously, but intimidating. There was a lot to learn. Um, but I think what's really good is the people. They were just very welcoming. Of course, we bust balls right anywhere, but with guys, but for the most part, though, it's just that community, and that I believe that what draws me also as well to the hobby is that you're welcome. Like of course, there's one or two people that maybe a little bit non-approachable or not so approachable, but a lot of people are like willing to really help, try to get you in and find, how you can learn faster or whatever questions you may have.
You're gonna find out who those two people are.
Sorry, one's probably me. I have RDF.
Dude, I was gonna go like this.
No,
There's nobody over there when you go that way.
That's the biggest lie. Everybody knows Vin the sweetheart. So if I was gonna be like, all right, oh fear. But we'll move on. We'll move on with that. Dude, that's that's fantastic, and that's really the story for a lot of us, right?
yeah, and I think it's, what really kept me is not other than making new friends and enjoying the hobby was it's a therapy for me.
It's therapy for sure.
Uh, being out there, yeah, even just wrenching, before I had a trailer, in my garage or basement. Yeah, it just takes you away from your regular grueling job or life.
No doubt, man.
Yeah.
So the other guys on the panel see you more often than I do lately because you kind of transitioned to doing some more racing at LCRC when you could or when you can. So Vin, you have any questions that you have for Prisco? Maybe you see him out there at LCRC or trains.
Well, I mean, one of my questions to him is, what's your favorite track? And I already know the answer to that one. But go ahead.
Definitely LCRC.
Of course.
No doubt.
Of course.
It's just not the track. It's beyond the track.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's talk about I see the sign behind you that I believe our other guests may have made the techno sign back there. How long have you been running for techno, and are you on the team or do you just run the car? Or how's that going?
Yeah, I'm on a team.
Nice.
I think I've been running now for 4 years.
Well, okay.
I'm with
Loyal
Techno for 4 years. Yeah.
Nice. And who put you on the team? Like, if someone wanted to be on the team, who should they talk to?
I did reach out to the local guys that was on the team, and then I with some more traveling, I was able to get introduced to the team manager. So I sent my application, and that's how I got in.
And what's his name?
At that time, it was Ken Rand, and then now it's his brother.
Oh, cool. Okay. Very cool. And how do you like that new buggy that they just came out with?
It's I think by far the best buggy techno that they came out with. Yeah, I mean, they made some great progression. The 2.1 was really good, but this one is just really good.
Now, did Mayfield help with that, with the design of that, or was that who?
My understanding, yes.
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I think they put really good balance on what it can do for pros like Mayfield, who's fast, and also like average Joe like myself.
So, well, Pword, I tell you what, you're talking about progression of the car, right? I've seen amazing progression in you as a racer. I'm impressed. I'm a little scared, probably too, but definitely impressed. What do you think? Something that's happened in the last year or two? Do you think has kind of made that big leap? Because I think you made a really big leap in the last year or two, watching your race.
Agreed.
Thank you for that, Tom. I mean, I think there's a variety of things that I did and I've been doing. So like when I started, right, like it was slow, and every time I come out, it was just really just have fun, right? Didn't matter whether I do good, well, or better, just to be out. That was just the goal. Um, then lately, you always come back to like, okay, why are you doing it? Of course, you want to have fun, but you also have that competitiveness in yourself, right? So I kind of revisited that, like, okay, I'm having fun, but okay, what's the really other things why you're doing this? So as I started doing or kind of looking at myself or how I could do better, um, not just looking into the car, knowing setup, asking or talking to people, um, but also kind of doing an inventory of myself. Like, what can I do? Is it my radio? Is that how I hold my radio? Breathing on the in the mains. Um, just taking care of your car, knowing, you know, uh, in the beginning, I was more like looking at everyone else setup as opposed to you got to learn your setup. So I think that's big lately. So I have some setup that might be a little bit different from others or from the norm, but works for me. Um, and basically just looking at myself like, okay, why am I making mistakes? Is it just not keeping that focus? So I'm kind of like checking myself every time I'm out, like how what can I do to improve. So I think that has a lot to do with my improvement in the last few years.
It's
And
awesome. I mean, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because it's you're definitely one of the great guys in the hobby. So it's awesome to see. But I know I could tell you're definitely putting the work in, which is great. And happy you're getting the results for it.
yeah, and obviously the car has a lot to do with it. Um, but surrounding yourself with people like you guys asking questions, like setup wise, uh, you know, just reading materials like the Invisible Speed book is really awesome. I can really recommend that to anyone, because there's been like setup books in the past, right? But they were too technical.
Read.
Um, I think the way how JQ write the Invisible Speed is it's just making it. It's not just simplified, but as a racer that you've been on the track, you can relate, and I think that's what makes it effective.
Now, if someone were to, let's say, buy a techno kit right out of the box, the new one, what kind of setup changes would you suggest they make to the stock kit that just came out for LCRC? Let's say, because every track is different. So, like, what would you do to a stock kit to make it yours?
To be honest, with the 2.2,
Mm-hmm.
zero.
Really,
Yeah,
just drop it and run it. Springs,
yeah,
everything, oils. It's money right out of the box.
yeah.
Hmm.
That's how crazy it is.
Wow.
You know, everybody's running the new springs, but I tried both. Yes, there's a little bit difference, but for someone who just started or new to the chassis, you would not even feel it.
Okay.
Cool, interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
I know the car is good. I had a chance to drive one. I thought that it's very impressive. A lot of but a lot of the cars have gotten really good throughout the years. I think
Yeah,
everybody's kind of converging and getting closer. But I think a lot of it has to do with confidence, right? And if you feel confident in your equipment, whether it's the preparation of the equipment and the setup, just takes that pressure off you. You're not as anxious going into that race, and now you're able to breathe and concentrate and do all those things you need to do to be successful.
yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right on that, Tom. It's all about confidence, right? Like when you practice, you're building that confidence, and when you're confident in your equipment, in yourself, that really brings the result.
It's crazy. It's like any other race car or dirt bike or whatever. You have to kind of become one with it, and that for most people takes time, and for some people, you have to make some changes to feel the differences before you really sink in and get comfortable. Absolutely, Pword.
Oh, that's the other thing is like before, I just run the car and I just either make an adjustment to how I drive, because maybe I was afraid to make those changes. But now I'm just like, let's make those changes and see how, find out whether it works or not.
And that seems to be a common thread with a lot of people we have on a podcast. I seem to ask this question pretty often. And a lot of people say it's that when you get confident in that setup and changing the setup in the car, that that'll really help you grow.
Yeah,
And practicing with a purpose, driving with a purpose. Hey, how's it feeling in this one specific turn? Where, hey, my car's pushing or it's loose in this one part. Well, is it loose coming into the turn? Is it loose coming out of the turn? Is it loose in the middle of the turn? Is it on throttle, off throttle? All those type of things. When you start, I guess, you start understanding the setup, then the practicing and racing with a purpose becomes more important, and it makes you want to do more of it.
and that's really true because before, when I go to practice, I just basically make, run laps, right? But now I'm trying to be really more sensitive to, even 2 laps is enough for me to like, okay, let's make the change instead of just spending that whole hour of practicing without really trying to get to where how you could improve your lap time.
Very good. Very analytical. So, Pword, you talked about chassis. Talked a little bit about how you do your setup for the car. I know last year, maybe even could have been a year and a half ago, you were unloading some hot race tires, and I believe you transitioned to J Concepts. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm still a privateer.
Okay.
I'm not sponsored by J Concept, but I'm just really comfortable with the tire.
Nice. Yeah, I ended up picking up some stock from you, of which I'm still using, by the way. I got like 3 different brands. But yeah, um, so are you a lot more comfortable in the J Concepts program that you're running versus the hot race tire? What's your go-to tire? I am going to leave the screen while you answer the question. I'm in my studio garage. The propane heater has run out. Temperature is dropping, so you might hear a little background noise. But please tell us about your tire program.
Yeah, I mean, at LCRC, very, very popular reflex, which in the last couple of years we've been, I guess, blessed with rain. Sometimes, we don't like it, but actually, at qualifier or even main day, the group just and the traction just really goes up, and that's where we enjoy like relapse, for example, has been really popular there. Um, and I think in other races, indoor races, relapse has been really popular. I have not really tried that many because I think those two and probably just lately when we went to full brawl, that recon was actually working. Before it wasn't last year, but this year it was really working very well. Because last year it was stalkers that was working well for me.
Yeah, I've been finding myself using the recons more than I used to in the past. I mean, it seems like there's a little bit of loam on the track. They seem to work really, really well. We don't typically find that type of loam on LCRC's track, but fall brawl, some other places will build up, and that seems to be a good one.
Yeah,
One tire keyword I would tell you to put in your arsenal, especially with the rain we get sometimes at LCRC, get some green ellipses. If that track is wet and like you see people come up with the tires caked up at LCRC, those things are money. If it's wet. And it's sometimes it feels like a swing for the fence because if it's wrong, it's gonna be way wrong.
yeah.
But uh Ezra was kind of the one that pushed me to doing that. And if you see tires pack it up, put those ellipses on. You'll be uh
Oh,
you'll be impressed.
I'll definitely thank you. I'll definitely take note of that.
Yeah.
Definitely something.
I'm with you that they're. Sorry, Ben.
No, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I kind of agree with you, P word. I carry 2 tubs of tires up to me LCRC all the time. I usually end up running reflexes early, and if it starts getting any sort of line in the track, I start seeing a groove start forming. I switch over to relapses. Um, if it's really clean, you could throw some detoxes on there, but that's very similar to the relapse. Um, and you can fool around with falcons or stalkers or dirt bites, but they're all very similar to the reflex. And I think for a lot of the people that are listening here, if you're going to be an LCRC, the 2 tires you have to have with you are reflexes and relapses, just like you said, P word. I think they're the main ones. But there's some other stuff out there to potentially try. But I think for you, I'd add the ellipse to your mix just in case we get that weather. It's been a good tire.
Yeah. And probably even if when the track is green, I think Recon's gonna work too, because with that tall pin, and it's still green, I think it will work. I was gonna try that this season.
I think the Recon kind of floats on top a little bit. I mean, if you trim it a little bit and make it a little bit less, I think the pin is really tall, so the car kind of feels like it floats around a little bit, is my experience. But what I would want to test, especially if there's some moisture, is going to be the double bars and the dirt webs.
Those 2 new ones
for 8 scale, because we were running those at, what was it, AMS? That was they had a lot of grip. So I was actually thinking, yeah, these are going to work at LCRC, most likely. So
I got my fingers crossed on those on the double bars because I bought 12 sets of them. So
wow.
they better work.
They better work somewhere.
It's pretty rare I find a JC tire that doesn't work for me, so I'm not too worried about it. But I know it looked very similar to the AKA Lux tire, and a lot of those guys were really liking that tire at LCRC. So
Yes.
I'm pretty confident between the pattern and JC's rubber, which is always one of the best ones, that it's going to be fine and work well.
And while we're on this topic of tires, right? And one thing I think I could share in the last few years that I've been kind of doing is, we could easily get lost with the tread pattern and what to use, and I try to really simplify it to like coming down to like 2 or 3 treads and then play with a compound, because sometimes what I learned is that we tend to think a lot about what tread should we use, but sometimes it comes down to compound, and that's just already a lot to think about, and we just keep chasing what perfect tire that may be. So I try to like really kind of minimize the selection so that I don't get lost.
So P word, 2025. You got the chassis, you got the tires, you got the setup. What's your plan for the season? Races, your race strategy.
There's definitely still a lot to work on myself, especially on the focus part. Like I could do well on a qualifier, but you would probably see me still, or what you've seen me in the last years. I kind of not do too well in the main, especially in the second part of the main. I'm also having some carpal tunnel issue, so I'm also managing that so the numbness doesn't get too bad.
Our other guests can talk to you about that.
Yeah, I already talked to him about that. So right now I'm working on how to manage that. So in the long mains, it wouldn't really bother me. So that and focus. Um, Still continuing on learning the car, track to track. As I'm have the opportunity to go to different tracks, you're actually learning more about the car and about yourself. Like this weekend, we're going to Adrenaline, um, I've been there, but not too many. So it's almost like every time I go there, it's always an experience and learning process. Um, Going there with a new tire, trying that Dirt Rev 2 and the double bars, see how it goes, you know, and with a new car and just the new approach of, attacking the track.
Nice, man. It's good strategy.
Yeah, and just being patient, sometimes, if there's traffic, is it how you want to really manage that traffic? Because sometimes, they're trying their best too to be not on the way, but in their effort to do that, they might be, costing you a problem. So being patient is also a big thing, when you run into traffic, or I'm the traffic.
It's like
Not too often. Not
sometimes
too
you're the
often anybody.
windshield, sometimes you're the bug.
But I think, I do want to echo what you just said in regards to going to other tracks and diversifying where we go. Look, I love LCRC, and I think we're fortunate to have it. But I think for a lot of racers, right, going to some different tracks and basically forcing yourself to try different setups and different things is a good thing overall in your learning. And we're getting fortunate. We got LCRC, but there is adrenaline. We have trains and lanes. We got the barn. We got rhythm. There's a park lane hobbies. There's a few different places where people can go. Even if you're not going to race all the time, to get there and use it as an opportunity to change your setup and try things is beneficial. So kudos to you for doing that. I mean, that's, I think, critical.
Yeah, to second on that, adapting is definitely a huge skill, and knowing where to change your setup and adapt with, is also critical. So actually, to be honest with you, there's a whole separate series that one of our team drivers, Brian Miz, he runs a Virginia Championship Series, and those are all the tracks in Virginia, and there's a bunch of good ones, and it's worth trying because they're all very different and tracks we've never been to. I want to say Tilt Yard is in there, Leaned Out's in there, and a bunch of others that I forget the name of, but you'll see me at least a few of those. That's my goal for this season, is to get out and hit a couple new tracks I haven't been to. So yeah, I like that.
It definitely adds to the excitement. Sometimes we may think it's work because you're thinking, but that feeling when you're making a change and it works, it's very satisfying. So it adds up to the fun factor.
Absolutely. Part of it's figuring it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Pword, everybody's got a target in racing. Meaning everybody who's racing for the most part looks ahead, right? And there's guys that race around them in a group or they're always competing against. Who's your biggest target locally that you race against? One of your buddies.
Uh, I mean, lately, of course, Tom. Tom is my target. If I could pace with Tom, I'm happy.
Hell yeah. He's a
Yeah.
fast guy.
Yeah, I second that.
Aim higher, buddy.
We always have fun in the 40 plus
Absolutely. It's
class.
always good racing. Absolutely.
Tony E, very smooth, patient racer.
Yep, another great racer.
If I could be, in contention with him, I'm happy. That's like my, my goal every time I go out. Toby, I obviously, you cannot aim in everywhere, right? But if you know someone that you think you're on the same level, if you at least be competitive, to me, that's, George one. Of course, you're one of those. Lately, when was that? Last year, where I choked.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, those are, you always have goals. Absolutely.
Yep. No doubt, man. Everybody's definitely got their sniper scope on somebody else. That's just racing, right? Whether it's guy that beat you at the last race, a guy that you've never been able to beat, somebody you just want to stay on the same lap. You know, you got to have a different aspiration every time you go out. You just, you know, especially in the 40 plus class, you can't be like Tom Petrella all the time taking home a win. You just got to be sometimes happy if you're top 5 or
Once.
you know what I mean? Top 10. It depends you know, if you're at a local event, regional event, you're at, you know, a big, you know, sponsored race, whatever the case might be, right? You got to basically, you just got to do the best you can. And I think that's your perspective, right? You've been in the hobby a long time. You came in slow. You came in like I did, kind of, you know, kind of backwards, Emax, T-Max, Revo, whatever the case might be. You get to a track, you realize nobody's running that shit, right? So you're trying to you're trying to now be like, all right, I just blew like $600 on everything I can't use at the actual track where I want to go racing, and then you kind of get with the program, kind of find out where you want. And what do you got behind you sitting on your workbench?
Oh, those are my 2 buggies ready
Nice.
for this weekend.
Let's see that paint
Your
job.
third class.
Before we move on to our next guest and our other sponsor, let's see that paint job, because I know you sent some pictures out recently. You want to grab one of the cars and put it in front of the screen so we can see it? We don't have
Did you change it
telephoto.
up, Pword? No, he didn't change it up too much.
Yeah, no, he's got a new paint scheme. I saw it. It looks hot, Pword. Hot, man.
So this weekend I'm trying this wing because it's indoor. See how it works.
Okay.
You know, and then
Tell everybody what wing that is, because nobody knows exactly unless you tell us.
So this
Techno
is the ultimate racing version of that Racer Lexan wing from J Concepts. So let's see how it works. A lot of people are really saying good things about it, especially indoor.
Nice. Who are you going to Adrenaline with? Because you didn't invite
There's actually a
three
bunch of
us
guys going. Nick Camasco is going. Dennis is going. Just today I learned.
Nice, Dennis.
Yeah, a bunch of guys are going. Omar, I think, is going. Corey.
That must be a different Facebook Messenger thread.
Yeah, there's a few group chats that we have, right?
That's it, man, for sure. But that's great, man. I hope you guys have a great time. I've been down there a few times myself. Super amount of fun. I swear to God, it's the most traction you can have at sub-freezing temperatures. Like, no joke.
Well, that's actually the challenge there is that, the temperature. But it looks like the forecast is going to be a little warmer.
Yeah, you run in and out. You run a 5-minute pack or 8-minute pack. You come in, by the time your hands get cold, you're already inside. All that adrenaline rush from kicking Dennis's ass while you're out there, that'll keep you on par. I know he's laughing in the background. That's why I'm saying it. Anyway, so
I want to get one of those radio packs. Matt Novoso has a bag. You put your radio in, and then your hands go in. It's a really big bag, and it keeps you warm. My wife's a seamstress. What the hell up to have her make me one of those things?
She can knit one, Tom, for you with your name on the outside.
I don't care what it is. If my hands are warm, I'm in.
Tommy.
And whatever.
No, I agree with you, man. That's cool. That's cool.
George, you'll see. If I have it, your hands are cold. I'm just going to laugh at you. You can make fun of me.
When I went to Adrenaline, I had 2 or 3 of those hand warmer packs in each pocket. I had my snowboarding pants on with my bib that came up to here, right? I had my thermal fleece on, the whole deal. So I would come out, literally run a pack. My whole body was super warm. By the time the pack was done inside, unzip a little bit, cool off, do your wrenching, go back out. It's a lot of fun. I'm envious. Have a great time, guys. I wish I could be there.
Thank you.
Before I say thank you to Pword and tell them to hang out while we get into our next interview and mention of our sponsor, Finn, do you have any other questions or Tom for Pword? AKA Prisco.
Pword, what's your favorite class?
Oh, I didn't hear that, Tom.
What's your favorite class to run?
Oh, favorite class? Nitro Buggy.
Good man.
the trucks are really fun, but they're fun. How would I say it is? But the nitro buggy, when you're doing good, it's super addicting.
Yeah, it feels like a Formula One car, right? When you get it right,
Yeah.
it's yep.
Yeah, definitely.
And what Ultimate motor are you running? I know you run Ultimate motors. What motor are you running?
I've been running the Ultimate motors now.
Which one do you run now? Which Ultimate?
The MXR.
Okay.
Yeah. I've been really happy with it. I guess this is the Ultimate version 2, right? Because there was
Yep.
the original Ultimate where they had some problems. But this one now is really good.
Yeah, new ones have been solid. I know. Anybody complaining, they get amazing fuel mileage too.
Yeah, it's been really, really good.
Cool.
Vin?
Yeah. How are you? What's the temperature in your trailer right now? Like, is it parked outside or is it in your garage?
Oh, it's outside.
They can't be too bad.
I have the heat on.
Okay.
So right now it's 68.
Okay. Not bad at all. Wow. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. Yeah.
Nice,
my
nice,
house.
nice, Prisco. I'm like almost there.
Yeah.
Wow. The trailer's got you beat.
Yeah, by 2 degrees, but I did run out of propane.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So last 2 questions, only because I'm going to highlight on what Tom said, and then we're going to move on and ask you to hang out for the rest of the podcast, if you don't mind. Since you mentioned your motor and we talked about tires, we talked about chassis, what pipe are you running since nitro is your favorite class?
Also running the Ultimate pipe.
Okay.
The
And
2141.
okay. And fuel.
Nitro Pro.
Okay. Nitro Pro.
Yeah. So
We like
I'm
to
running
hear
Nitro Pro, fuel, and servos.
Awesome.
And batteries.
And batteries. Yeah, I use Nitro Pro batteries as well. And that's great stuff, man. You got a good program, good products. Drew Singer was on the podcast earlier in the season. We definitely support his products and what he's trying to do for the RC community. It goes without saying, Pword, that you are a gentleman. You're an ambassador for techno, to say the least. You're out there. You always help people out. You're always friendly. Anybody can come over to you and ask for a set of tires, ask for a receiver, a battery. You're the first guy that would literally give something right out of your car that you were going to race for somebody else. So I like to say personally, thank you for the type of guy you are in the community. You're a good friend of mine out there. We've shared a scotch. We've shared a giggle at the track. We've definitely battled before, and I look forward to racing with you again this season.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, it's really just, being part of the community, right? It's I would say it's payback. A lot of guys were good to me when I was starting. So when you really benefit from that, you want other people to also experience the same. And
Absolutely.
we compete on the track, but sometimes we say, right, when we're at LCRC, racing is just gravy. The whole fellowship with everybody is really what's priceless.
What's priceless?
No doubt.
Being neighbors with Pword at LCRC and smelling the food that he cooks, and then just being able to walk over there and be like, "Hey, buddy, you got a plate?"
Oh wait, see me. I'm moving my site.
We're spoiled over there. Thanks, Pword. Appreciate you, buddy. You're the man.
It's always good to be out racing and then not hungry, right? When your belly's full.
Especially when you smell what you're cooking, man. That's a treat. Always.
It might not be healthy, but it smells good.
Pword, awesome stuff, man. We really appreciate you being our first guest for 2025, episode number 25. I like the ring of that. And if you don't mind, we'd love to have you hang out in the podcast as we bring in Dennis Brew, our next guest and new sponsor to the podcast with Nitro Caddy. And of course, you can join the commentary when we get into it with Dennis. How's that sound?
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
With that, with no further ado, we're going to welcome Dennis Brew from Nitro Caddy. What's up, Dennis?
Gotta go off mute. You're on mute, buddy.
Hold on, technical difficulty. There we
There
go.
he
You're
goes.
off mute.
There he is.
What's up, guys? George, Vin, Tom, and Pword, as I call him. I call him Pword.
What's up, Dennis?
Thanks
Good
for
to see
having
you,
me
buddy.
on. Thanks for having me.
I just want to know where's Samoji? Is he hiding somewhere?
Is he going to pop out?
No, not tonight. Yeah, it's rare that I'm on by myself. I'm in big trouble because he fills in a lot of gaps.
Nah.
Yeah, he's.
We were going to get to that later, but
We got George here for that.
thanks, Tom. Never short of words, but it goes without saying, Dennis Brew, thanks so much for joining the podcast. You know, Dennis is a unique guy who's come into the hobby in the last few years, if anybody knows him. I'm lucky enough, I think, to know Dennis from the first couple of times he started showing up at the track, up at the barn. For those of you who don't know, Dennis lives in North Jersey. He's a Jersey boy. He's up near Dirt Runners. That's one of the track he affiliates with. And then I think he found out about the barn, started coming down there. Dennis is one of these guys, kind of like how Pword described it before. Dennis came to the track, saw it, and then literally it was like the best food he ever ate, right? Couldn't keep away from it, totally fell in love with it. And then, you know, I started seeing Dennis out every other weekend. Then I'd show up at the track and Dennis is there with his cherry picker, helping Rohan put up signs or lights or driver stand, you know, became an integral part of the barn and what had happened there over the last few years. Definitely doing banners for like Big Apple Challenge and stuff like that. And then as Dennis, you know, progressed through his racing, you know, he came up with a fantastic idea that we'll get to shortly. So, Dennis, really appreciate you joining the podcast. Inspiration for a new racer that's come out, really fell in love with it for those same exact reasons. We're going to hear you tell us all about that. And then, you know, obviously fall in love with it to the point where you're not only racing, but now you're involved trying to create a business. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you into the hobby?
Well, I've always had a fascination with remote controls as far as I could remember. Like I had the ones that had the wire on it when I was a kid. And there was just something about being able to push a button and invisibly, you know, the car moved. And, you know, I think like my first like whoa moment with RC was, I think it was probably in like 1988. I bought a Tamiya Blackfoot.
Nice.
And I built it on the living room floor, like on the carpet. And I remember I was up all night building it. You know, instead of just stopping at a certain point, I built it. And I think like 7 o'clock in the morning, I finally got it all together. And where I lived, there was like a big dirt parking lot, gravel. And I brought it down there. And when I turned it on and I hit the throttle, it was like nothing I have ever seen from Radio Shack. I mean, now, like our cars make Tamiya look like a Radio Shack, but this thing was tearing all across the parking lot, and I got hooked up with a track out in like Chester, New Jersey. It was a dirt oval, and I would work on that car all week, and then put the car in the start line, and they'd say go, and the car wouldn't go anywhere. It was like just constantly braking, but I put the hobby down for a while and started a business, and every kid wants a toy at Christmas. I don't care if you're 93 years old. I want a toy. I want something. So Christmas time, I used to buy all the employees a remote control car. Zeppelin Hobbies is a mile from my shop. And we all got Nitro Vortex. We all got Revos one year. It was probably like 6-7 years that I would walk out there with like 8 remote control cars. And that last day before, you know, when we had like our company lunch, I'd give them all out. We'd all open them up, and then we'd race for cash in the street, just like a drag race down the street. And it would be like 3 trips to the hobby store for broken parts. And we would mess around with them for a week or two, just racing up and down the street or in a parking lot. And then they would go away. And so pandemic hit, and I went upstairs in the shop, and I think I counted something like 13 or 14 cars that I had up there that were just sitting there with cobwebs on them. So my plant, all the motors were frozen. So I took, I think I took 7 weeks off. You know, we shut the shop down. And between taking trees down in my yard and doing this and that at night, I was just working the motors free. And the plan was to sell them all. And I fell into this rabbit hole of YouTube and the Arma Creighton and all these different ready to run Arma stuff. And I think eventually I sold a lot of those old Traxxas, but I got all these Armas and then got an idea to build a track behind my shop. And I spent weeks. I rented an excavator, took trees down and put lights on it. Me and my buddy Dave.
You only go big, don't you?
We were all in. I was all in. And never really been to an RC race, though. And then I remember Dirt Runners was there. I never raced there, but I had went and messed around their track 15 years before that. And went up there, organized race. We showed up with 2 low-C ready-to-run Doom buggies with lights on the roll bars. They're like totally inappropriate to race. And
but you look good.
First race, there was a big triple, and me and my buddy Dave, we were like a little scared, like nervous, you know, and he was really nervous. And the first lap of the race, he hits the triple and he pegged the marshal right in the chest. And I guess the marshal wasn't, and the whole crowd went, "Oh!" And Dave went, "Oh!" And I started laughing. And they were looking at me like, "Who is this jerk?" You know, laughing at somebody getting hit by a car. But at the end of that day, we were marshaling a race, and there was Techno mini truggies, the ET 410.2 or whatever it was. And these things were hooked up. I think nobody crashed the whole main. And I was like, I got to get one of those. And that started the addiction. So that started my love affair with techno and with racing.
That's a good story, man. That was funny.
I spent that year racing at Dirt Runners. And then I found Crispy Critters. And I remember I was in there one day and they said, Are you going to the Fuel Nationals? It's at LCRC. And I was like, no way. I'm like, just the thought of that, the sound of it was so intimidating. Like, there is no way I would ever even go. And then they started talking about the barn. And the first time I went to the barn, I researched it. I saw the videos. I drove there. I followed the GPS. I remember I kind of creeped to the edge of the track and was kind of looking like, you know, like, I hope somebody doesn't kick me out of here. And it was unbelievable. The nitros were running. They were fast. It was like all this action. I stayed about 15 minutes just because I was really intimidated. And then I think I got the courage to go back and race. And shortly after that, I met George and Alan and Jerry. And, you know, I just got completely addicted with, and then there was talk about LCRC, and LCRC. The first time I went was Mugen Challenge 4 years ago, maybe. Me and my buddy Dave, we rented a trailer right on site. We got there. I think when they had the pit party, and so we got there. We put everything in the trailer. And up front, they had like a taco truck. They had a donut truck. They had a live band. They had cornhole. Everybody was playing. And I felt like I was like in Shangri-La, you know, and there's this track, this huge track that was like perfect. So, and the rest, and I haven't missed a race since that first time. I have not missed a race at LCRC.
That's
awesome.
some attendance.
perfect attendance. There's not too many things in my life I can say I got perfect attendance. That's one of them. I said, honey, what's the date on that? No, that's not possible. That's not happening. Tell them to move their wedding date.
I imagine the LCRC schedule goes up on your refrigerator before anything else at this point.
Oh yeah, I know. It's always the third week of the month, from April through October. I mean, I spend more than a month of my life every year at LCRC. So if you figure, what's that for racing period? I probably spend 50 days a year racing. And the racing is like not even half of it. It's all about the fellowship. It's like nothing like, there is nothing like, I'm in golf leagues and I have friends and different interests and different stuff, but nowhere else. It's like, I tried to explain it to him. I said, look, imagine we golfed, right? And then when we were finished golfing, we set up a grill and cooked and late into the night, and then got up in the morning and made breakfast and went golfing again. And then after that, we might have golfed maybe another 9 holes, but then we cooked dinner and bullshit and hang out. And it's like, there's nothing like the, like Virginia. Nick and Joe are great, but Pword, you put me over the top for going to Virginia. I said, Pword's going, I'm going. Yeah. A lot of fun.
I love what you said about the camaraderie, right? And the people. For me, I obviously want to do well when I race, but that's not why I'm going. And I think back to, we all have our friends. We've had friends since grade school or high school, right? But it's hard as you become adults to make, it's hard to make those relationships that stick, right? Because we're all busy doing different things, but it's nice. I can go to the track. I could see you, Dennis. I could see you, Pword, George, Vin. And I might not see you guys for a month in between races, but when I see you, it's like, I just left you yesterday. Right. And it's kind of cool to be able to make friends as an adult that, I feel like a little kid again. I found some friends want to play toy cars with me. Life's pretty good, but now we get to drink beer and hang out afterwards, like you said, Dennis.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I just started venturing down the Tom's Pit area down there. Like, that was like a little intimidating, that area where they had their fires. So little by little, I kind of hang out down there. A lot of fun though.
Nah, everybody's welcome always down there. Usually the fires, like everybody's moth to a flame. So like the fire, everybody seems to show up for a little bit.
Yeah, like towards the end of last year at LCRC, I think Davis and Jack and above average Joe Johnson, as I like to call him. They I don't know what was going on the last couple of races of the year, but it was noticeable that they were missing from the other side of the gravel road from where we all pit. But hopefully we get the band back together this year.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of life happenings going on there. Especially, I think Davis just bought a home. He said he was just on the podcast.
Nice.
So, yeah, congratulations to him. And, it's good stuff. But yeah,
it kind of ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
For some guys, it depends what where you're at in your own life, right? Whether you got kids, you don't have kids, grandfather, not a grandfather, just starting in your career, getting a house. But the greatest thing about it is it's like a magnet, right? Once you fall in love with it, you can put it down, you can forget about it, but at some point, it just starts calling your name. You might see an advertisement, go through a store, or go to your nephew's house. He's whipping something around, and all of a sudden, you start looking for your stuff and reaching out to your buddies. But that's the great thing about it. Dennis, before we get into the dynamics of your involvement with RC, we had left off with Pword, kind of finding out, what he runs for chassis, tires, so on and so forth. I know for one, you're definitely super involved with Nitro. So tell us a little bit about your program, chassis used, fuel, tires, equipment, so that we understand how you get prepped for the year and maybe some of your outlooks for 2025. Now that you told us a little bit how you got into the hobby and what attracts you and what you love about it.
Run a Techno. I think the thing is bulletproof. I think I think any beginner should get a Techno because, man, I have hit some things and had some crashes where I was completely amazed that my wheel isn't ripped off of the car. Rarely do I have breakages with the Techno. Nitro Pro Fuel, Hobby Wing as far as electrics go, Sanwa for radio. I used to have a ton of different tires, and I just try to narrow it down to reflex, relapse, and like whole shot, like pin that's wider for like when you're practicing on like a fresh track that's real loose, and something like a Falcon or something like that as far as tires. I'm trying to really simplify the tire deal, and I'm trying not to ask people because I need to learn. Like I need to learn. My problem with learning is like my memory is shot. Like really should have a book and start writing because there's some situations where I've swung and missed big time on tires. But well, you know, George and Alan at the barn, I was racing with them years ago. I raced 2 years with a car that like I built the cars and I never touched them. Like I never adjusted the ride. I never did anything to the car. The car was like toe in. The car would turn real tight to the right and real wide to the left. You'd have to like try to hit the brakes and then hit the gas and try to get the car to spin out to turn one way. So in between races, Alan and George, especially George, is just ripping his car apart to like the last nut and bolt. And I'm sitting on the cooler and he says, are you going to do something to your car? I'm like what? He's like, well, what's your camber? I'm like, huh? What's your ride height, huh? He says, here, take these things. He kept picking his car up and throwing it down on this old wooden board that he had. It looked like it's 20 years old. He kept throwing it down. And that was like the first introduction to setting the car up. And I've raced 4 or 5 classes since I started. And I feel like I learned to race a car that was terrible. And I got a lot of track time. And so probably the last 2 years, I just started to begin like setting the car up and getting the ride height. And what a difference it makes. You know, when the car turns tight both ways, it's actually pretty good. And, you know, so I don't know. I forgot what I was saying.
You were just involved, how you started getting involved in setup, and I was asking you some questions in regards to your program for this year. And you mentioned some of the products that you're using. You're running Techno. You love it. It's great for a beginner. What kind of motors are you running? Since you're Mr. Nitro Caddy, we'd like to hear what kind of nitro motors you're using.
Like 83s. I ran those. Ronda motors. I should be getting that motor from Ed tomorrow. He put them on sale. I clicked on it right away. So I'm going to try that. I always run Ed's motors. And it's great to have Ed at the track. You know, sometimes I feel bad because he's so busy. Like I told him, you should wear a lab coat. I'm going to get him a lab coat, you know, because he's like a professor.
Oh my God.
Put his name on his thing, you know, like make his hair like Einstein.
Dr. Bridges.
Oh my
God.
God.
He doctor. Yeah, professor.
The Muppets.
That's right.
He's a big help. He's a big help. And so I run his motors, pretty much stick with him. And, you know, I raced electric for the first couple of years, and I got so pissed off having to always be marshaling these 30-minute nitro races. And I got an 8-minute main. That's all I got is 8 minutes. And if you don't make the A main, you get like a 6-minute race. So I got nitro out of spite. I went to nitro out of spite. I said, okay. And now I love it. And I think this year I really want to I need to cut down the classes because I'm just not organized enough or mentally just not fit enough to maintain all the cars and make the changes. Like I'm convinced that Pword has somebody is in the cabinet in his trailer that because this guy's running 4 cars. You could eat off of them. They're perfect. And like, I can't, like, I don't have a chance at doing that in between rounds. And he's cooking for 10. So I think there's a little hole or there's a cabinet. He has a little like Oompa Loompa down there. Here's another card. Do this, and it comes out the other thing.
And Dennis, you are quite the social butterfly.
Oh, it's so hard to like. Last year at Motorama, I got a ticket from Matt Geist. Thank you, Matt Geist. He bailed me out. I pitted with Matt, Allen, and George, and I raced 1 car. And
you had a blast that day. You were like, I can focus on 1 car. I'm not distracted.
It's just 1 car that I had to worry about. So I think if I drop anything, I'll drop. You know, it's so hard though with e-buggy. It's like you tell yourself, well, I just got to slap a battery in. And really, this past year, I used e-buggy as like recon for what tires are going to work for nitro buggy, nitro truggy. So that I'm really all about the nitro now, and all I want is that 30-minute A main. And like that is to me is like I tell myself, look, I just want to make the A main. I don't care about if I finish dead last, but then everything changes when you make the A main. You don't want to
absolutely.
You want that podium. So you hear and Tom Petrella is flamed. I'm like, that's another position.
You're my
you at the track and you go, there goes my podium. Thanks a lot. There's another position.
Tom, I think that's the second target on your back.
Well, no, Dennis got me one time. I was watching him and Samoji had their after show, which, by the way, is absolutely hilarious. Anybody listen to this? If you guys, I'm sure you guys probably have more watchers than we do because it's absolutely awesome the show you guys do. But I had just come off having a really good race at the cancer race, so Dennis says, "Oh yeah, I think Petrola's going to win this weekend. I think I'd like the worst weekend ever." So you totally jinxed me. I'm much better off being underestimated because I have way too much pressure on myself. I was trying to impress Dennis Brew, which isn't easy.
He was a lock. He was a lock that weekend. I call him as a lock. I don't know what happened.
Yep. Thanks, buddy. Jinxed me right. It's like when the announcer says your name when you're racing, you're almost guaranteed to wreck in the next turn or two.
Yeah.
So, Dennis, there's no doubt, right, from when you started in the hobby to the last times I've been racing with you, you've definitely improved drastically, right? You're in the game now. You're definitely competing with other guys, that are at your level or above. Your consistency is up tremendously, and, you're out there for battle. Where in the beginning, you're just trying to keep your car in the lanes. You're trying to make it through the end of it. I think you found that little secret for car maintenance and longevity of your race vehicles. I won't get into that because I know you love wrenching yourself. But in general, you're out there, and now you're out there for competing. So, in addition to that, and I'll have Tom jump back to it because he mentioned it. So I was going to talk about it a little bit later, but might as well hit it now since you mentioned. In addition to being out there racing and being competitive, LCRC is part of your, yearly race schedule. Why don't you tell everybody, and Tom can, lead in with some of the questions about your podcast that you're doing from LCRC on race events.
Well, it wasn't planned. It was the Mugen Challenge 2 years ago. We always watch the Hump Day Happy Hour show. We get to the track on Wednesdays, so we always watch it. Most of the time in my motorhome, everybody, whoever's there will come, will watch it. And Samoji's always texting away. He comments a lot on it. And he says to me, I told him they were doing the Hump Day Happy Hour from the stand where Toby films the race from up there outside. So he said, I told him that you wanted to be interviewed. I says, well, what did you tell him that for? Like, you're going to make it sound like I wanted to be interviewed. I didn't say that. So as I said that, she's on the screen. She says, come on, Dennis. So I told him, you're coming with me. And somehow during that brief interview, she said, you guys should do like a wrap-up show or something. So we said, okay, thanks. And we came down, and Rob goes to go to bed, I said, no, we're doing a wrap-up show. Come on, let's go. He's like, really? So we just kind of we wing it a lot. We started making lists of stuff that we want to hit on. And Samoji's great because he fills in a lot of dead space. He's a really good talker. And Saychuk, when Saychuk is there, he's a character. He's a funny guy. And so it's kind of us three. And then towards the end of last year, it's just me and Samoji. But we love to interview racers at the track. I'm so grateful for LCRC. Like, they've ruined a lot of other tracks that I've raced at because they do the program so well. But gratitude is an action word. So anything I can do to help LCRC promote their track or their race, or, cover some things that maybe people don't know about the track, it's definitely an honor to do.
Well, I think it also helps too, Dennis, but it helps also, you were talking about when you first went to the barn earlier, right? You kind of felt intimidated going there. And I think, what Kevin and Chris do with the Hump Day Happy Hour and you guys with the wrap-up show, and look, hopefully with this podcast, it takes those new racers that are out there that might feel a little intimidated and feel like, hey, you know what? I've never been there, but I feel like I might know somebody at the track because they've seen Vin's face before, or George's face before, or yours, members. So I think it's really good in that regard. So I think it makes people feel a little more confident and comfortable when they show up at the track, especially for the first time, because it is intimidating.
Yeah, we're real loose with it. We try to have a lot of fun, and there's a lot that's, we bust each other's chops on that show, like, where sometimes you're like, really, you're gonna say that on the air? Well, yeah, we say whatever. And we have people at the track come up to us all the time, said, we saw you on that, so it's pretty good. They approach us, said they saw us on the show. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's definitely added to the race event. You know what I mean? Yeah. People can follow up with that. You guys bring some good humor to it. You guys are great characters on the program. So congratulations. I know you guys have been doing it for a while. And, another way that you're contributing to the hobby, which is great, right? Because when you get to be our young age, right, Prisco? Young guys we are, right? You try to figure out. So, like, even this podcast was, like you said, you got back into the hobby during, the pandemic bullshit. And, I kind of had this idea for that where I had reached out to a couple guys, seeing if we can put it together. But it was not just like how to fix boredom during that time frame. It was like, okay, I've been in this hobby a long time. What can I do other than running a track, right? I was involved in the past in a track. That's a lot of effort. Tom knows that, right? I mean, all you got to do is open a track once and you realize almost why you don't want to do it again. A lot of work involved. It's like, another girlfriend. But you try to basically think about ways that you can pay it forward in the hobby. And, this is kind of my contribution with that, with my other co-hosts. And that brings me to a segue because I have to, kind of loop everything back, bring it back to a head point. So, Dennis, as I mentioned to you guys before, he's a racer, started a podcast because of his love for the hobby, his affiliation with LCRC, and his love for that track and the events they're having. So through this whole process and time, right, Dennis has a genesis, right, as we're sitting in the pits and he's seeing guys carrying stuff from their pits all the way to the track, and guys are trying to carry their pit bag, and then they're trying to carry their radio, and then they're trying to carry their nitro car, of which they got to carry their starter box and their glow plugs and their extra glow plugs and their fuel bottle and their extra fuel and this, that, and their screwdrivers for tuning and all that stuff, right? Not bad for an electric guy knowing all that stuff, but nonetheless, right? So Dennis comes up with this fantastic idea of how to go from A to B. If you guys don't realize already, we have a new sponsorship logo at the bottom of the website. So the Northeast RC Racer podcast is so pleased to announce Nitro Caddy sponsoring us for 2025, our second sponsor. We're super grateful, Dennis, that you felt that this podcast would be a great way to leverage your product and brand. And with that, we're going to run this awesome promo that my man Toby, who's not here, put together. And for those of you who don't know or not familiar with, actually, I'm going to have Tom Petrella read a verbal about it, and then we're going to run to the video clip. You ready, Tom?
Sure.
Here we go.
No, so I mean, I got to guys know Dennis, but if you're racing nitro, Dennis came up and created the Nitro Caddy. It's I know there'll be some pictures that pop up in a second. I can't see because I'm actually reading something right now. But
Yeah, I can't play the
Caddy was-
I can't play the video until you're done, so I'm just going to keep
Yeah,
up
it's
the
fine.
static head.
Well, I'm going to read it verbatim, and then we'll have you go through it. So Nitro Caddy was created to allow Nitro 1/8 off-road racers a better way to carry their equipment from the pit area to the track. The old way of accomplishing this task of going through the pit area to track. Oh, I got to read that again. My bad eyes. The old way of accomplishing the task of going from the pit area to the track needed the use of both hands or two people. And now with the Nitro Caddy, you can hold and organize everything you need in one hand. And I'll tell you what, from a guy that has to help pit people a lot when they have a Nitro Caddy, it makes my life a hell of a lot easier when I have to be the guy pitting somebody.
Absolutely. And before we ask Dennis some questions and how his genesis came up from Nitro Caddy, we're going to do a little promo for those of you guys so you can find out where to get Nitro Caddy and some of the benefits for it.
Nice.
Very
Toby
nice.
did first class job on that, right?
Very good job. Very good job.
Your sponsoring dollars are well at work, Dennis.
Listen, I listen to you guys. I wait for you guys' podcasts to drop. Like sometimes I'm checking every day. And where I love to listen to you guys is when I'm driving. Like I'll play it, and it's just so much information, and it's always great. Like sometimes I catch it. It's like posted 3 minutes ago. And I'm like, here it is. So you guys do a great job with it, and I couldn't. I'd be honored to support you guys however I could, because I use your podcast for information, and Vin with his tech corner. You learn a lot. So it's really good podcast.
Thank you. We appreciate that. So some of the parts, right? We're only as strong as the weakest link. What do you got there, Petrella? Oh, nice.
Who's your caddy? I keep right on my radio box. Gotta have these essential.
You gotta laugh at yourself. You can't laugh at yourself,
Oh, I laugh at you a lot, Dennis. Don't you worry.
I need one of those for sure, Dennis, for my fucking toolbox.
Yeah, I got it. I got you.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I think I took those as a prize when I was at the cancer race. I'm like, yeah, I need some of those stickers. They're going on my car from my radio box.
Jack Mulligan's is the best sticker. His face is priceless on his.
So Dennis, great promo, right? Everybody knows where to find Nitro Caddy, the advantages, the flexibility, different types of caddies. But I can't sit here and talk about your product the way you can. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you came up with it, your prototypes, and then getting out to the market, and then some of the advancements you've had from, let's say, version 1 to where you are now?
Well, I wish I was smart enough to come up with the design of Nitro Caddy. But the truth of the matter is, I wasn't smart enough to just dream that up one day. A couple of years ago, I was at PMB Psycho Nitro Blast. It was my first nitro race. I built a nitro buggy, and nitro for me, it was very intimidating. The most intimidating part of the whole thing was carrying the car on the starter box with the wheels running, and when you're hitting the throttle, the car is moving, you think it's going to fall off the box. The stress of like going to pick up the starter box as a newbie with the car running on it and trying to position it without the car falling off, and and then setting it down and everything that comes along with that. So it's like the end of PNB, and I was walking past a pit area outside, just outside the venue there, and there was a guy, and he had the basic design. He had the bottom, and he had the two sides with the handle, and he had the starter box in there in the car, and he was warming the car up. And I was like, I walked past and I looked, and I said, wait a minute. Went back and I said, do you mind if I take a video or two? Because I just thought it was the coolest thing I ever saw. And so I'm videoing it, and I filed that in the back of my mind. Now I got a full sheet metal shop, and promptly went home and made what I saw. You know, he had a lot of stuff that was like pop riveted, and I have sheet metal brakes, so I was able to make the right bends and put it together, and I brought it to the barn. And I saw the value in it is that you didn't have to hold the car up like this. You just had to, you could hold the car down like kind of near your calves or your knees on the side. And so I didn't want to really do anything too much with it without finding out who that guy was. So I looked over that video a million times, and then I finally zoomed in, and his name is James Sarton. He's the guy that came up with that design. So I got in touch with him, Facebook messenger him, told him what I wanted to do, and he was all for it. So James Sarton gets Nitro Caddy product, whatever he wants, sweatshirts, hats. I sent him some to sell. And but then what I took is his design, and then I took it a step further where a lot of it was designed out of, like, I smoke cigarettes, and I don't know if anybody can identify when it's your turn to race and you're a smoker. Like, before your race, you're like puffing away on a cigarette. It probably makes you more nervous having the cigarette than not, but you tell yourself, I need a cigarette. So when you're walking to the track, I put the remote control holder on it. I put the fuel holder on it, the tool holder, the wheel wrench, and it was all made out of metal. I cut and bent all that stuff, and then I started getting into making it better, going with a different gauge of metal. Went from spray canning them, painting them, to 3D printing the attachment pieces, to now where I'm at is, I think after like 2 years, I got it to where, like, I look at it and I can't make it any better than what it is now. And it's gone through a lot of different changes. And, you know, I didn't sell what I thought I was going to sell. The first time I went to LCRC with like 10 of them, you know, I didn't sell one of them, and it was discouraging. But I knew, without a doubt, it's a better way to do it. Every time, like when I'm warming my car up, the car is in the starter box. It's right there in the caddy, and my fuel bottle is at where my right hand goes, and my left hand pulls the fuel cap. So like everything is like kind of ergonomic with that. And I refused to give up on it. And as a result, you know, I always thought the more I sold, the more I'll sell. And it serves a lot of different purposes. For me personally, because like I said, I spent a lot of time at LCRC. When I'm spending time at LCRC, I'm not spending time at my business. And I have a partner. So, you know, what am I now? He's my business partner in the sign company that we own together. But he's also my business partner in everything that we do financially, Nitro Caddy and all this stuff. So at least when I'm at the track and I'm not at the sign company, I'm making some money for both of us. Then there's the fact of summertime. I'm in the lighting business. Summertime is slow, typically very slow. And, you know, I could just look at YouTube all day, or I could do something in the shop. And so that's when I started, you know, really working on this stuff. And everything I develop usually seems to be between May and September. It's pretty dead. I have employees that I run tech support for them. They go out, but there's not that much for me to do. We're highly profitable. And by spending time and money and resources at a company to develop this product and another product, I'm able to cut down on profit, which ultimately cuts down on my tax by creating an expense to the company. So it serves a bunch of different purposes. So when I'm out there playing, I'm not playing 100%, but I'm putting some money in my partner's hands as well. So, and now we just came out with the E-Caddy, so that'll be debuting at Motorama. I put some an E-Caddy gets the electric car to the track because E-Caddy like an e-buggy is like, okay, I grab the car by the wing or the front shock tower, but I still can't smoke a cigarette with the remote in my left hand. So I came up with a little thing that holds the remote in the car in one hand, and I still got a free hand. So that, like, I put some prototypes out at LCRC last year, and a lot of people
can't smoke it at Motorama.
Yeah. So at Motorama, I'll have it out there, and we'll see. But glad to be doing something in the hobby, and then I get to create all these hats and sweatshirts, and I like the swag. So,
fun, right? You get to create not only the product, but some of the other stuff that goes with it, adding another product line and SKU to your website. But I think in general, a lot of guys that pick up the Nitro Caddy, they they see the advantage. They might not be smoking like you. They maybe don't have a Red Bull holder on the Nitro Caddy and something else for a pack of Marlboro Reds. But in the end, it could be a cell phone holder. It could be something, something else they need. It could be a stopwatch. It could be something else that basically holds something that guys are using at the track, whatever it might be. I know that you had talked to me the other day before you had got on the podcast that you're talking about basically doing like a little holder for wheel nuts, and other assorted items, whether it's body clip holder or something like that. Just, whatever's the last minute necessity you might need or forget, or a tire holder you were talking to me about. So you might have something, so an accessory that clips onto it where you can have another set of tires. These are all applicable things at the track that you might need. And, I, for one, definitely, think it's a product worth having as you invest in some of the other tools that you have, in your racecraft.
Dennis, you made the techno sign in Pword's trailer right there too. Did you not? That's another
yeah. I make those too.
That's awesome. Yeah, cool stuff.
Funny story. I went to do like a whole weekend. Like, you ever see they do those documentaries on like PMB or all this? So I bought a couple cameras. I bought all this stuff, tripods, the clip-on mics. I was gonna do that thing for Mugen, I think. I interviewed Pword for like 45 minutes. I got all this footage. I got everything. And so I get back to my shop on Monday, and I take the card out. I put it in. Do you know I recorded all that stuff in slow motion? There was no volume. Like, there's everything. It's like ruined. It's like hours of my time. So you need like a Toby and what he does, because I thought, I'll just do it. And I was so devastated to learn like all that stuff that I did. It was like there was no sound. It was all in slow motion.
Dennis,
I don't know what the question you asked me was, Tom, but.
Dennis, step one for me when I came up with the idea to try to do this podcast was I reached out to Toby. I'm like, listen, I have an idea. It's a group of panelists. We want to talk about great stories and stuff. I was like, but, I could spend probably the next 3 months trying to figure out what software platform and everything else, or I could just ask you to be my partner and help me and bring it out there. And, my expertise is management and expediting. So, you just surround yourself with the right people, right? And at the end of the day, that's, what you've done on your podcast side, and you got the right people in your shop to do it. And, it's great, next month, and I'll get into it at the end of the show, but, there's everybody that's in not everybody, but lots of guys that are in the hobby, right? Always try to say, if I could just figure out a way to try to make money in what I love, right? Or the hobby, that would be so fantastic. There's so few people that have been successful. Lots of us have ideas for it, right? But at the end of the day, it's like very few of us are actually successful. having a great idea or coming up with a patent, as an example, taking it to market, success rate is like 3% or less. So the fact that you've come up with a great idea that's applicable at the track, that a lot of the fast guys see and regular guys see the importance of it, is fantastic. At the end of the day, it's not something everybody needs in their toolbox, but for those people that take racing seriously, want to get out there and have fun and kind of sport some a cool addition, right? There's lots of products. You can buy a fancy wrench with an anodized handle, right? You can buy a setup board, right? You can take your body out and send it to a painter. You can get shocks or wheel nuts in certain colors, right? But there's not many products that you can add to your pit stuff that are as unique as the caddy. So I think that's fantastic. And in addition to that, right, you're an avid golfer. You mentioned it before when I met you and started going out to LCRC. That was one of the fun things I remember going out there. I don't get out there as often as you guys do, but part of it was like, hey, man, we got some time. Do you want to go next door and golf? Right. So we had this great time. I had just started golfing with my dad, coincidentally, trying to pick it up as an extra hobby. So I went out there with you and it was fun, and like 10 other guys. You're so gracious with that, taking a bunch of people out to have a good time. And then when you came out with the idea of it, I just thought it was such a natural segue, right? Because golf is really your first passion in terms of like competing, right? Until you got into RC. So the fact that you could combine what you really loved and you were out all the time, and I'm sure wherever it was that you came up with the final name for Nitro Caddy, you were like, Eureka! These are like the two fucking things I love most of all, right? And you're like, Nitro Caddy. Unbelievable. That's like the name. I'm sure you were so happy with the name, right? Because ultimately, a name for a product sometimes is as hard as coming up with a great product by itself, right? Because you don't want this boring ass name for what you got going on. So I think that's great, man.
Thanks. We did our first annual golf outing at the Mugen Challenge this year. We had Vin was out there. And did your team win, Vin?
No, we came in second.
Pword's team won. He was supposedly like the natural that never golfed, and like he was the best player on their team. So we got to hook him in this year, because Thursday mornings we golf.
Let's go. I can't wait.
Thursday mornings at the track, because the track doesn't really open till noon at LCRC, which is really about 10. They say noon just so, but so 10. So we get out at like 7:30. We're back at 9:30. We have breakfast. We have plenty of time to get ready to practice.
So Dennis,
it's addicting.
Why don't you explain to everybody what you put together last year in terms of the golf outing? So obviously LCRC's awesome track, amenities, the festivities that they put on, but you started doing something else, which for guys that maybe are involved in golf and RC, it might be more of an attraction.
Well, you got to pivot. They had a rule that if you went to the Drake Clinic, they want to give somebody else a chance. And the Drake Clinic is the best money ever spent in the history of mankind spending money, because you get your track to yourself for 8 hours, with like no line on the driver's stand for that weekend. But
I thought you were going to say Adam Drake was great.
Oh, well, yeah, he's good too. But a lot of times, like he'll look at me like, "What's wrong with this guy?" I remember one time he says, "You got no oil on your filter." I said, "Does that matter?" He just rolled his eyes, and but he's great. And the track walk, I get a lot out of the track walk, and how he talks about, like, if you blow this turn, you're going to blow the next 2 turns, and it's a lot to think about. But it is but we couldn't do that this year. So then instantly I'm like, well, it's probably a lot of people that can't do it that usually do the clinic. Let's do something, even if it's wrong. Do something. Did the golf outing. It was a success. We had like 20. I think we had 20 people.
So for those people that want to, come for the next golf outing that you may do, even if it's only at Mugen Challenge, just explain how they would get involved and do that.
Well, I'll put out this next one coming up next year. I'll put out a list, and you could sign up, and then it's best ball, which means look, you don't have to be a great golfer. It's teams of 4, and you all tee off, and you pick the best ball, and then you all hit from there onto the green or whatever, and then you all get a chance to putt, and you try to get the best score as a team. So it's a great way to golf because, I golf with Nick Camasco, and I said, Nick, you didn't play sports as a kid, did you? I'll show you a slow motion swing of that guy. But we have fun. Golf is not about. It's like golf is just like racing. It's all about like being with your buddies. It's the most beautiful scenery you could imagine. And then you're all talking smack about how great you're going to do. And the first guy gets up to the first tee and hits the ball right in the lake, and then you all laugh at him. So, or somebody will swing. Samoji likes to swing and miss the ball completely, like 4 times in a row, and we're just dying laughing. So yeah, it'll be up for the Mugen Challenge again, and we'll have fun.
Sweet. I've heard some stuff from a lot of people, right? So we go on and on. I'm definitely not short for words. Then we go into Vinny's setup. So we definitely have to, for 2025, put a lasso on our time duration for the show.
Yeah.
You mentioned before you like listening to it while driving, right? Probably when you're driving all the way down to Fall Brawl, because we fucking talk forever. So you need basically like a race that's happening out of state, or otherwise you got to listen to the episode in 2 versions. So with that being said, I'm going to go to Pword really quickly because basically he's looked like this static image for the last 35 minutes while Dennis has been going. And then we're going to defer to Vin and Tom, see if they have any other questions for you in regards to Nitro Caddy or your racing or race program or podcast. And then we're going to try to wrap it up and get to Vinny's segment and then our last sponsor. So Pword, you got any questions for Dennis?
I don't have a lot of questions to Dennis, but all props to him. He not only that is a fun guy to be with, he works so hard. His progression is really exponential. So it's funny, right? Because I missed a few races this year or last year, but then I think all of us we still connected to that race. Like you chat with people, hey, how you doing? You try this. So that was fun. So I think on behalf of a lot of people, just want to thank Dennis for his contribution.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Thank you.
Tom Petrella.
I got my questions in. I mean, I always like to ask the same question, I asked Pword earlier too. Is there, Dennis, you've improved significantly as well. You used to send it everywhere, and I see you much more controlled, even though that last layout, you were the only one I saw trying to quad into that one jump, which was pretty damn impressive. Mm-hmm. But is there something specific in your program besides learning how to set ride height and caster that you think really helped you improve overall and really help you? I've seen you really grow the last few years. So,
well, I think mentally, I got tired of I feel like I could run a fast lap like anybody else, but I can't run a fast lap every lap. And when you crash, you can't, you're just ruining your time. And I've kind of learned to talk to myself, to calm down. And my best races feel like I'm just driving around the track. I just drive the car to where when you're not on the edge of crashing, I tend to be able to control the car a lot better and just tell myself, like George has said, just shorten the track. I keep repeating that stuff in my head, shorten the track. And I start getting better consistency. I start getting clean qualifying runs. And, I learned a lot. I pitted Pword at Fall Brawl. And I watched, you watch somebody race, it's one thing, but when you're pitting them, you're watching every inch of that race. And I watched him back off a lot of people and wait for the opportunity to get around them. And I took that with me. So I'm just trying to not do the stupid stuff and relax and try to be clean and slow down a little bit. And I've never touched a track bar. I mean, a sway bar or a spring. So when I start touching springs and sway bars, you guys are in big trouble, man. Big trouble. Never touched one.
Well, Vinny can help you with that, buddy.
We'll work on
Vinny,
that.
I need to do it for myself. Like the days of asking people, like it's nice, but I need to learn why, and I really need some track days to where like I can like go from 3,000 in the front to 10,000 and see what that actually is feeling like and doing. I just need to make the time to do it. I haven't been able to do it yet.
You let me know, and I'll meet you at the track. We can do that, or we can do it maybe the day before, day after a race. If you have the day off, let's hang out for sure.
Yeah.
So my question is, what colors does that Nitro Caddy come in?
Well, it comes in carbon fiber black, white, racing bright green, bright red, bright like fluorescent orange, burnt orange. I'm doing wraps on them now, so it's perfect.
Wow.
So like I can custom pretty much any color, but my colors are black, white, green, red, orange, yellow. But if somebody wanted a different color, I can make that happen. And through January of this year, so I know this is gonna air before the end of the month. 15% off. So if you want to order one, go to it, shoot me an email, and I'll give you 15% off for the month of January.
What's the email, Dennis?
It's on the nitrocaddy.com website. You could email.
All right, cool.
Or you could always message me, Facebook, Dennis Brew, or Nitro Caddy. So either
there
or.
you go. 15% off Nitro Caddy through the end of January.
I forget who I was pitting, but the first time I used it, I was bringing the car around, and it might have actually been Ed Bridges, and I was just like, I was amazed at how easy it was to carry the car, it was pretty balanced with the starter box. It was pretty balanced on that thing. It just made the whole thing pretty easy, and even like sitting there pitting, it's pretty easy to take everything right out of there, put it to use, put it right back. Everything's got a home. So I think you got a great product, and I can't wait to use it more this year.
Yeah, Aiden is our new we sponsor Aiden Nitro Caddy. So Vinny, you got to get over to the shop and pick out your color and pick out what you want. But we're sponsoring
the fluorescent orange for sure.
Oh yeah. All right, I got one.
Sweet.
I got it.
Cool. I can't wait.
All right. Well, with that being said, because I got to keep this thing moving around, Dennis Brew, thank you so much for not only sponsoring the podcast this year, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely look forward to having you back on the show as the season progresses. You'll come back, talk about Nitro Caddy again, just like we've been trying to do with Ed from EB Mods. Once again, for anybody who is coming into the show late, Dennis Brew has Nitro Caddy. You can get it at www.nitrocaddy.com. Great pit station for your nitro or electric vehicle to take it from your pit to the track itself. Also fantastic, if you got somebody else that's helping you in the pits or pitting for you, right, and they don't know where all your stuff is, right, because maybe you did it. Nitro Caddy is a great way to consolidate all your stuff, especially if you don't have your dedicated pit guy for every event. I think that's another good point, Dennis. But with that being said, thank you so much. Please hang out. Vinny's going to go into his segment right now, and then we're going to wrap it up with the rest of our sponsors. So, Vin, take it away, and I'm going to do my best to try to figure out how to give you front screen.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. And while you do that, I just want to remind everyone to go down below and just smash that like button, hit subscribe, please. If you can make a comment, that would be great. If you could tell us what you want to hear for setup topics, or maybe you want to suggest somebody that needs to be on the show, or they have a product that you have a product that you want to have represented, please hit us up, use the comments, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you can. That would be great. That's the best way to show your support for us, and we appreciate it. And if you do that, we'll just keep coming back and giving you better and better content. So what I'm going to go over, shout out to a buddy of mine who's been reaching out to me a lot lately, and he wanted to know, he asked me just today. So I was like, all right, we're going to dedicate this segment to Mike Malone. If you're listening, Mike, here's ride height for you. Ride height is something I actually went over episode 9. So, I'm actually going to just, I'm not even going to change it up. I'm pretty much going to tell you what I told you then. I'm going to repeat it because it's so important to go back to your ride height. I mean, every time you put your car down, you should be checking ride height. And basically, it's the distance between your chassis plate and the ground. Okay, so how high is it sitting off the ground? What's your ride height? Now, it's different for all different kinds of cars. And you need to, like I said, you need to check that ride height before every run. I'd also suggest checking camber, which is going to be another segment. And another thing Mike asked for, he asked for that and even droop, but I can't do it all in one night. So back to ride height. So basically the tools you need, this is my LCRC pit board. I use that because it stays nice and flat so you get an accurate reading. This is my J Concept ride height gauge. I love this thing. It's really accurate and it's got all the numbers, everything you need. And this goes from 10 all the way up to 40. So that's basically, this particular car right here, the B74.2, this is probably the lowest ride height. And on carpet where it's high grip, you can run it as low as 11. I'm sure some people have even run 10, but for me, 11 is what works on that car. And, to adjust your ride height, you're basically just going to spin these shock collars on the front. Now, left to right should be the same, and you can even take your caliper. I use this JC caliper that I love. It's not digital, so it doesn't run out of battery, and it's easy to just stick that in there and measure, the gap and get them even left to right. Now, front to back is a whole different story, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But front to rear, it can be different, and when you have a higher ride height, what you're allowing the car to do at a higher ride height is roll more. Okay, it's going to have the ability to roll left, right, front, back a little bit more. And what that's going to do is going to create more leverage, which is going to create a little bit more grip, but it's going to take away a little bit of that stability because you're transferring more weight. So it's a trade-off. Really what you need to do is you need to test it and see what works best. So if it's a bumpy track, generally speaking, you're going to want a higher ride height. If it's a rough track, that's what you want to do. If the ride height is too high, the car is going to have more of a tendency to flip over. So if you're flipping a lot, one of the things you can try is lowering the center of gravity, lowering your ride height. Like I said, that's going to create stability with the low center of gravity. You're going to have less roll. So you're going to have a little bit less grip, which is going to make it more stable, especially for high bite tracks. You might not need all that grip. So definitely lower it and get the most corner speed you can out of your car. If you're smacking the jump faces and you're bottoming out all over the place, you might need to raise that ride height a little bit. Okay. So let's talk about varying the ride height from front to rear. Okay. And that's called rake. Okay. So most of the time you're raking this way. You're going to want the front end lower. You want to be on the nose so the rear rotates. Okay. So that's usually how we're doing it. And then also you have to remember, as we accelerate, we do what? We load the rear, so keep that in mind. So a higher front rake, you're going to have less steering, more stability, and a little bit more weight bias to the rear. So the rear is going to feel really locked in, and then the front is going to feel a little bit more vague and less steering, which isn't necessarily fast unless you have a car that's really, really loose in the rear and you're trying to do a little Band-Aid. So lowering the front and raking that way, like I said, that increases weight transfer to the front off power, and that's going to increase your steering, decrease the rear traction and allow the car to rotate a little bit more too. And it's also going to maybe lower the nose during flight too when you're flying through the air, which allows you to land on the throttle a little bit more. And that's going to shave a little bit of time off your total overall lap time, especially if you're on pace and you're not making mistakes. So a lower front center of gravity is going to be more planted, and sometimes, like I was saying, the higher rear at the same time is going to create some leverage, and that motion of accelerating is actually going to compress the tire and the carcass of the tire is then going to embed itself into the ground a little bit more. It's going to plant a little bit more. So you're going to create a little bit more mechanical grip with it that way, if that's what you're looking for. So you have to test and you have to see what works for you. So what are we looking for at the end of the day? The best drive around the corners without bottoming out, without flipping over, and you're at a really good ride height. And like I said, every time you bring the car in, every run, you want to double check that ride height along with your camber to make sure that the settings haven't changed. A lot of times you'll find that the shocks can pack up with air, and sometimes you need to open them up and do this and compress them and bleed them out and get some of that air out of there, especially if the temperature changes and it gets a little warmer out. The oil and the air can expand in there, raising your ride height. So it's really important to check it. And by looking over your car like that too, you can also notice if maybe something broke during your run. So definitely recommend, number one, first fundamental thing that you need to do adjust on your car is going to be ride height. So I hope that helped you guys. And, like I said, please like, subscribe, share, and comment below and let us know what you want to hear about. We really appreciate it. And thanks for tuning in.
Fantastic, Vin. Thank you very much. Great information. Anybody here as guests have any questions for Vin?
Is that Dylan's paint scheme? That body looks sharp.
It sure is, man.
So
I
nice.
really like how this thing looks. And this is EJ from, has been doing our paint for a little while now. And man, he's making it better. So I really appreciate you, EJ. And thanks for doing our bodies, buddy. Did a great job.
All right, awesome. So as you guys know who follow the podcast, Vin does these awesome setup segments. So thank you very much, Vin, for bringing some new information to the scene and helping guys out, especially that they have time. And this is all great information. Anybody who's interested in some other setup information, you can look back at the other close to 24 episodes. Vin joined the podcast, I think, at episode 9. So between 9 and 25, you can see all of Vin's great setup advice with Motorama coming. You can also hit Vin up directly. He's on Facebook, or you can reach out to us on the podcast or send us a message through the Northeast Racer Facebook Messenger, blah, blah, blah. So as always, great info. We are going to hop to our sponsor. If Tom Petrella is ready, we're going to do a little thing on EB Mods once again.
Yeah, absolutely. EB Mods. We already talked about him here with these guys here. Ed Bridges, local guy, has a full service nitro, all your help you guys need with your nitro engines. He's the guy to see. Whether you need to buy a brand new nitro engine, it can help you out, or you need help with an existing nitro engine you have. EB Mods, local resource for you guys to reach out to. Whether it's breaking in an engine, re-sleeve a piston for you, resize a piston. You can pinch your motor for $25. Does dyno tuning. If you have an issue, God forbid, I just look at his website. He's got one where somebody snapped the bolt in the end of the crankshaft that usually holds the clutch, or the clutch nut and everything else on the end. He's got that a service to get that out. So any help you guys do with your nitro engines, EB Mods is the one you guys want to reach out to. Check out his website, ebmods.com. A lot of good information, good insights there. And again, local racer, really support everybody that's out there. Let's try to show support to him as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ed Bridges from EB Mods. We really appreciate your sponsorship dollars. Helped us do a lot last year, as well as Dennis's from Nitro Caddy. This podcast, even though, it looks like it's free, it basically costs us about $300 a year just to run for the software. And then anything that we do in between, which is like, trying to come up with some other ideas. This year, we're trying to get ourselves some equipment, maybe a fantastic Northeast RC Racer podcast neon sign would be fantastic. Maybe we can talk to Dennis about getting some of those. But basically anything that we do with the sponsorship money just helps to improve the podcast, give us some equipment. I ended up picking up a set of mics that I'm going to use at Motorama and do more driver interviews. Toby last year had a set, but it was really limited to iPhone. I have Android. So I got a set. I'm definitely going to be going around. I can share it with Tom and Vinny over the couple days that are there. For those of us who are going, kind of hard to remember who's going and who's not. But we'll
Don't
catch up.
don't let Dennis help you. I'll be in slow motion.
No record. But I'll definitely grab Dennis, and we can find some people using Nitro Caddy. So that'd be a great way to tie that in for the podcast and get some video going. One thing I have to say before we conclude is thank you very much. Most of the time I do this in the beginning of the show, but sometimes things just come unraveled a little bit as we're excited to do the show. But I want to say thank you very much to episode number 24. I don't think I said it earlier. We had guest Mike Ream on the show. Thank you again, Mike, for participating. A lot of fun to have you on the show, as well as Big Kush. Definitely awesome to see him. It was so great to see him through the cloud in the beginning, and Kush lived up to being Kush on the show, which is fantastic. And hopefully Kush and Critters may consider sponsoring the show as well. We'd love to see them on board, especially being in New Jersey. Last but not least, we did have a painter on the show that I brought in. A guy did some work for me, whose name is Dale Krapinski, something like that. I'm sorry, Dale, if I brutalized that. You can find him at Colors by Crappie online on Facebook. He does fantastic work, as you can see hanging up there. I definitely sent him a few other bodies. Tom, I even sent him my Euro Truck body because I gotta be looking good through the rest of the season indoor. So I can't wait to get that back. So thank you very much for guys. We appreciate that. What we like to say all the time before we conclude the show is we're not here without you guys, right? So without the community watching, thumbing up the show or liking it, sharing it to other people, we really appreciate that. We're on Facebook as well as YouTube, might even hit another streaming service this year. If you have a track in the local area, or you have a product that you're looking to bring on board, or you affiliate in some other way with RC and you want to get some more exposure, we're definitely looking for more support for the podcast. We could really appreciate it, and we definitely get your brand out there. With that being said, thank you so much, Pword, for coming on to the show. We really got to know a lot about you as a racer, your involvement in RC, your love for the hobby, your passion. Two words that came up tonight repeatedly. Tom Petrella highlighted it as well. Fellowship, right? Without the fellowship for RC, it's just racing, right? So we're looking for more than that. So it's a combination, great relationships, friends, and competition. Dennis Brew, thank you so much for coming on the podcast as well. You're a good friend of mine on the track. Pword, you as well. But Dennis, it's been great. I know these other guys on the panel a little bit longer than yourself, but I feel like I know you as well as the rest of the other guys. And man, stop sitting around the track and pick up a wrench and do some wrenching, Dennis. It won't hurt you. Yeah. With that being said, we really appreciate everybody watching the show. We are going to be having another show that we're recording this month. And that is basically a show that I came up with the idea for, which is the current state of affair for the local hobby shop. So I have some good guests that are going to be on next month. One of them is Brian Boyce from the Jersey RC Racing Promotions, which is an indoor place and hobby shop here in New Jersey. He's going to be the supporting guest, but the main guest for next month is actually going to be one of my best friends in the hobby, a guy without whom I would not be in the hobby, without him and his family and their involvement in a local hobby store, which was the largest in New Jersey, Alan Placer. So we're going to talk about what it's like to have been in the business, what it was like running a hobby shop for many years, how that business has changed, because obviously migration has been almost fully online. And then, there's a few dominant players in that industry. And then you have a local guy like Brian who started up a local race and hobby shop. So we want to talk about how that actually survives today, other than, guys basically buying on the internet and then showing up at his track, because Brian sells a lot of product as well, which is basically, in summary, support your local hobby store, whether it's Trains and Lanes or whether it's Jersey RC Racing Promotions or anybody else that, has a hobby affiliated business. So kind of wanted to do that this winter season, talk about the history of hobby stores. And I potentially have another guest that I want to bring on that might be able to talk about that. Might even reach out to Stevie Charles, because he's running or involved in running a store up north. And who doesn't love Steve Charles' sexy voice on the podcast? But with that being said, we're going to wrap it up. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes. We really appreciate everybody for watching. I want to say thank you, number one, to our guests, and number two, to my co-hosts, and number three, to Toby Hampson, who's not here, from 46 RC Race Media. Toby, thanks so much for putting this together, and even me reaching out to you at 12 midnight in England while you were either at the pub or coming home from enjoying yourself at the pub to help fix our screen that we had a little bit of a problem with. So thank you again, Toby. You're not here, but you did what you needed to do to help us deliver. So thank you once again. That being said, thanks so much, everybody, for watching. If we don't see you here at the podcast, we will see you at the track. And last but not least, one last preview for our new man, Nitro Caddy. Check it out, www.nitrocaddy.com. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks as we record episode number 26 that we're looking forward to. So thanks a lot. We'll see you guys at the track. Thanks a lot for everybody being here.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.